So how do I know when to play what comp? Well, the fundamental that addresses this is called direction. Direction, simply put, is knowing when to play what comp. Taking time to learn how and when to play the strongest comps of the meta is a huge advantage when climbing and can help you immensely when navigating your game, although it does come with its own drawbacks. Because TFT is a game that changes every set, and often changes every 2 weeks for every patch, everything you know can swap in one day. You can feel like you've solved the game one patch and have it flipped on its head the next. To keep up with the meta, you constantly have to learn the new comps and the new strategies in order to climb. That's why in this video, not only am I going to show you how and when to play the best comps, but how to identify direction for yourself. As a disclaimer, I want to stress that this isn't your typical meta read video where I go over the meta comps and the best openers for them. If you're looking for content like that, I can redirect you towards Kaima or GM Blue, who make great videos, and I'll link them below. What this video will teach is how high elo players even know this information in the first place, what they're seeing that you may not be, and how to replicate this process so that you can become a fundamentally stronger player and not feel like you're resetting every set. So before we even talk about specific comps, I want to talk about types of comps. That's because every comp that has ever existed in modern TFT will fall under one of these categories. So instead of learning how to play Kog'Maw and then learning how to play Nyla, if you just learn how to play every 2 costs, the only thing you have to learn on top of that are any set specifics. And Kog'Maw and Nyla both don't have any real set specifics. So what I mean by a set specific is something like Syndra, who is a traditional 2 cost comp. So how would I play 2 costs? I need multiple copies and I need good items. On top of that, I would need Shojin and a early Syndra. That's because she has a unique ability this set where the more she casts, the stronger she gets. So one of the win conditions of this comp is to have a, I think like 60 stack Syndra at the very least. So you want to be stacking it early. And the best part about this knowledge is that if you learn it now, it will benefit you every set from now on, because these are fundamentals and they won't change. Understanding what makes a comp successful is a key to knowing when to play it. For example, Fast 8 doesn't have a lot of requirements, and what few requirements it does have are very easy to handle. All you really need is the ability to go straight to 8 and stabilize. Afterwards, you want to have enough HP so you can go 9. Notice how vague the terminology is. That's because the ability can come in many ways, such as just win streaking there through tempoing, taking econ augment, lose streaking, or just going to 8 naturally, because that's just something you can do every game. Because you can achieve this pretty much every game, Fast 8 is often the default line in most sets. It's just a very safe, adaptable, and open line, unless the balance is like very geared towards like rerolls. So to use this table, you would look at the conditions for the comp you're trying to play, and on the right side will be contestment. So that is specifically how many comps can be contesting you, so how many players can be contesting your comp before you decide to play this. So it's before. If you're playing Rise and like you're committed on 3-2, you've been playing Rise, and 2 people contest you, it doesn't mean you're going to bot 4. It just means that if 2 people were contesting you before you committed, then it's probably not a good idea to commit. This is specifically for the comp. So like if 5 people are playing Fast 8, it doesn't really matter unless like 5 of those guys are all playing Rise. Any Fast 9 comp, such as Smolder, heavily relies on you hitting 2-star 5 costs. So if you don't have a reliable way to get there, then do not attempt to play this comp. You're not in a good spot for it. I've seen way too many players just randomly commit Smolder on 2-1 just because they want to slam Rageblade and they're comfortable with those lines. But in average games, you cannot go to Fast 9. Fast 9 means that you're not rolling until you go 9. If you don't have a augment, some sort of game plan, some high econ lobby where you can get a lot of money from like gold sub, or some sort of like super strong board that can give you a streak all the way to 9, it's not going to be a very good strategy. It's going to have a very low expected rate of success, and it's much better to play something else then. Moving on to rerolls, I want to state that anywhere it says multiple copies and a number after it is a very loose approximation. The amount of copies you kind of need before committing is very dependent on balancing and the actual comp. So some comps want just 1 3-star like 1 cost, or some of them like Warwick want 2, where you want Twitch and the Warwick. In general, if your comp wants a lot of 1 costs, like multiple, like 3, let's say for like Ari reroll, you want Zoe, Lilia, and Poppy, then you don't really need as much copies because you're rolling at low levels for like all of them. But if your comp really depends on hitting 1 to 3-star and like pushing levels, sort of like Ashe, then you kind of want a lot of the Ashes before you commit. For 1 cost specifically, you want to have best in slot and the ability to hit like relatively early. 3-5 is like the average. I've seen people hit at like 4-2 and still do fine. Again, depends on the balance of the comp. And then 3-1 like on your first roll down is like very, very early. And that's only if you're high rolling, have some sort of augment, and or you're only like rolling for, again, like 1 unit for 3 stars. Again, I'm using the word ability because that can be achieved in a lot of ways. So it's either you have a lot of gold to roll down at 3-1 hit early, or you have some sort of augment, or you have other players who are playing 1 cost who are helping you. Best in slot, also known as BIS, just means your items need to be like near perfect. So specifically for 1 cost, it is a very committal line. You're rolling at 3-1. In that spot, the only benefit you have for rolling on 3-1 is to find a 3-star 1 cost. Whereas like if you're rolling on 3-2, there's so many benefits to rolling on 3-2. It's actually like okay to roll a bit there and use the resources because you can come back from it. Because even if you aren't going for a 3-star 2 cost, you can hit stuff that can help you go to 8 on a win streak or something. But for 1 cost, if you're spending resources there, you're just spending resources. You're getting nothing back unless you hit the 3-star 1 cost. So it's very committal. If it's that committal and that risky, you want to make sure your investment is getting the highest returns. So it's really important to have actually like perfect items for your 1 cost. On top of that, because 1 costs are like weaker than 2 costs and 3 costs, a lot of the power will not come from themselves, but the item they have. It's like, just imagine a Warwick without a QSS or like a Titans. It's going to do like significantly worse than a Kog'Maw without a Shojin, even though Shojin's like amazing in the stats for him. You also want a low tempo lobby, and low tempo just means like the strength of the lobby. So you want the strength of the lobby to be low throughout. Those are going to be like Scuttle Puddle would have a very high tempo because the game is injecting so much resources into the lobby, and people are using them to like hit level 8 faster, roll more, have more items, have stronger boards. Because the strategy of 1 cost is to invest early and then hit your 3-star 3 cost, and then use that to be stronger than everyone for a bit, where you could kind of streak and sit on 50 gold. That duration will become much shorter if the lobby has a higher tempo. So if that happens, then your ability to cap out late game will be heavily stunted. Next are 2 costs, which I would say is extremely unconditional. You can just pretty much play it whenever, and committing doesn't come as a high cost as 1 cost. It's super easy to like find good spots for 2 cost reroll, or pull out of it if you think you're contested or you don't have a good spot for it anymore. Like let's say after Wolves you get really bad items for your comp, then you can still like push level 8 on 4-2. So as long as you haven't like rolled way below 50 and had good econ, coming back in 4-2 shouldn't be a problem. 3 costs on the other hand are some of the hardest rerolls, and players often make the mistake that they should be treated the same as 1 cost or 2 costs. It's extremely important for you to be able to win streak your early game. It's not like the other rerolls where best way to play into them is just like open fort. Like 1 cost, you want to open forts all of stage 2 so you can get the perfect items for it, and then roll down at 3-1, have enough like guarantee your max gold. Because it's really hard to streak if you're not leveling on, because you have to stay low levels for 1 cost, right? So you can't really have a strong board. Same thing with Kog'Maw, you basically lost all stage 2 and just like roll down on 3-2 to stabilize. But for 3 costs, you need a lot of gold because 3-star 3 costs are very expensive, and if you don't hit them, you can't top 4 for the most part. Like balancing is a very big influence, like I previously mentioned. The way you should be thinking about 3 costs is the benefits of having a 3 cost in the first place. So on early game, stage 2, having a 3 cost item holder gives you the advantage of having the strongest item holder in the game you can possibly get that in that time, right? Unless you have like subservice. It's better than a 2-star 1 cost, it's better than a 1-star 2 cost, and you don't really see any 2-star 2 costs on stage 2. So a 1-star 3 cost will usually be the strongest item holder you can have. On mid game, stage 3, a 2-star 3 cost will be the next strongest item holder, right? You can't get any 4 costs yet for the most part again. You'll see some 2-star 2 costs, but obviously the 2-star 3 cost will be stronger, and it's obviously stronger than a 2-star 1 cost. So that right there is basically like 40% of a 3 cost comp's power. If you're playing a comp like Jinx or Veigar without that, then you're like playing a 3 cost comp in one of the worst conditions. Because now you're probably playing Jinx at like 40 HP, you have no HP to sit on, and you have no extra gold to actually hit your 3-star 3 cost, because hitting a 3-star 3 cost costs more gold and much more time than hitting a 2-star 4 cost. So unless you hit that 3-star 3 cost out of nowhere on stage 4, you're going to lose every single round, and if you have 40 HP, you're going to be gone in like 5 rounds max. That's why for the most part, having an early copy is the best way to amend this and make sure you can win streak, but some comps like Veigar in this set don't really need the early cost or early unit, because Veigar is actually kind of weak until you have enough charms for it. So you can probably just get like a Soraka 2 or Seraphine 2 will be much better as an item holder. And then hero augments are literally just like 1 cost 2 costs, but on steroids. So it's just like the exact same idea, except they're stronger, so they'll stabilize you for longer. Some of them need like very particular items. Again, it's just all dependent on the set. But for the most part, if you're offered a hero augment, one thing you should make sure is don't take it if it makes your board weaker than it is currently. So if I have a good, like a Vanguard board, Molten Caramel, but if I have like a Bastion board and I get offered Molten Caramel, even if I have like decent items for it, it's something that I might not lean towards, because if I become weaker, then I lose like the early strength potential that, which is again like half the power of reroll, is being strong early. Finally, moving to Exodia comps. That's just a term I give. I can't really find a better one, but I think a lot of people in the community just call them that. But they're comps that are, like the reference, comps that if you collect all the right pieces for, will usually get you like a top 2, or just like really strong if you can get the right requirements. A really popular example of this set is going to be Callista, where if you can get like a double Rage Blade plus Recon 2, you're pretty much guaranteed a top 2. It was nerfed a bit this patch, but it's still like very strong. Other examples could be like, to an extent, like Blighting Jewel Karma with blue buff. So Blighting Jewel was good on Karma, but like getting the blue buff made her especially potent. So you would have to like lose streak for that tier as well. So they aren't your traditional comps where you like fulfill your 2-star 4 costs and whatnot. They are actually like strong once you fill certain conditions, like much stronger than usual. You'll notice that a common theme with all the ones I mentioned are that they require you to lose streak to get something, often a component off carousel. So you really want to put yourself in a spot where you can actually stabilize while playing from behind. From behind just means like playing from a lose streak. That's why when players aim towards Callista, they try to take augments that give them a lot of money or combat power for losing. So they can stabilize easier once they actually grab their specific components and they roll down at 4-2. The gold helps them hit the Recon 2 and their Callistas, and the items or combat power helps them stabilize easier. And finally, we have verticals. Any comp that relies on having traits as a main power. So a vertical comp would be 7 Eldritch, right? They go vertical up in Eldritch. I don't really spread out any of the other traits. So like a horizontal trait, by the way, a horizontal comp would be something where they're like a 2 Preserver, 2 Chrono, 2 Warriors, 2 Incanter, like a lot of spread out traits. But for these vertical comps, they want to be able to reach a breakpoint. It's in a set amount of time, because the power of the trait again is in that breakpoint. The win condition for 7 Eldritch is hitting 7 Eldritch, but if they hit 7 Eldritch like way too late behind tempo, then it's not going to be a win condition, right? Obviously, the best way to see direction for this type of comp is getting a +1 offered, like a +1 Eldritch, but it can't be done without that. If you're like a good enough player, you can replicate those conditions. I saw a challenger player take Pandora's Bench early. They use that to hit a bunch of like Eldritch units and get upgrades. Upgrades are really important for their line, and then they just use that to streak all the way to like level 8, level 9, and then they put a bunch of 5 costs on their bench to find Briar easily. I think they went like 3rd or 2nd overall, but like from their spot, it was like a really good, it was a really impressive play. There are other ways to do that with like good econ augments, just having a really strong board, or just guaranteeing a Briar. But for the most part, the +1 is like a sure way to get there, so it's probably the best direction. Sorry to interrupt, but if you've been enjoying this video so far, then please consider subscribing. I do spend a lot of time on these videos, and a lot of work does go into them. This one took almost like 2 weeks to make. This is a video that I recorded multiple times, and I eventually just ended up splitting this into 2 videos. The whole process took like almost a month, and a lot of that's due to me like wanting to make it as perfect as possible and like rewriting the script. But nonetheless, this is my full time, so your appreciation really helps me push out content like this in the future, and hopefully help some of you guys climb. Now, items are also very big for direction, but items will be considered set specific direction because what items you make will be dependent on what the carries are that set. For example, in this image here, let's say I had a Morello slammed and I took high voltage here. From this spot, I can play towards Rise, Gwen, Karma, or any AP orientated comp. This is the direction that I'm seeing right now, but new direction can come in any time. So anytime you get new information, like a new augment, even a new shop, someone contesting you, like committing to a comp, that can all change. For example, if I got a bunch of Huis, let's say like even like a 1 Hui, I can definitely consider Hui in this spot, because not only do I have the Hui, but I have decent items for it, and I can actually build a strong board off this, right? If I had like a really bad board, then I probably would not consider Hui as much, but with like a Mordekaiser and Hui as a core, I can easily play around Vanguards, throw this guy in, and it's pretty close for me to hit my my Hui conditions and have a strong board early. There's a lot of factors that influence direction, but they aren't weighed all the same. For example, one of the biggest mistakes I see players make is they overvalue the existence of units they currently have. So they'll have a mage opener, but they'll have like bow, cloak, sword. They will prioritize the fact that I have mages and think this is a mage spot instead of playing around the items they get. So items have a lot more precedence than units because items are written in stone, while units, for the most part, you can just sell and replace them anytime. This is especially true for early game, and this will be less true as the game goes on. So for instance, if I'm at like 4-1, I'm about to do my roll down, what units I currently have will usually have a lot more sway over what I play. So if I have like a 4 hunter setup, then I really want to play towards like Olaf or like Varus in that spot. I can't really just like commit all the way to like Fiora or something because that would cost so much more gold to pivot into. Here, my board's only worth like 5 gold, right? Depending on what upgrades I have, so I can easily find 5 gold worth of board easily, like in one shot. In the same vein as items having more value than, or having more sway than units, augments have more value than items for the most part. Prismatic augments obviously are more impactful, and silver augments are usually less. So if you get Wandering Trainer, then you're definitely playing around the Wandering Trainer no matter what items you have. This is why you should shape your game around the immovable factors and flex around the things you can change. You're not going to play a fast 8 comp when you take Prismatic Ticket, and you're not going to play toward AD when you have a Mage +1, even if you have like 80 items. So if I had a Mage +1 with these items, I'm going to play Mages now. The difference is like the Mage +1 is worth a augment, so if I'm not playing that, then I'm playing down an augment. Units are pretty much at the bottom of the list, especially early game, and they're really just like vessels for your forecast or whatever stronger carry later on. If you wanted a kind of idea of what I talked about like factors, then this is a good way to look at it here. So very, very loose because there's so many things that change in the game, but in terms of like relevance and like importance, this is how I would usually look at the game in terms of what I want to play. So my portal would have a lot of influence of what I play, but it depends. If it's Golden Prelude, it's not going to influence me whatsoever. But if it's like Loaded Carousel, that's going to make me want to play more towards like Sugarcraft or like dual carry comps. Artifacts and support items are just better items, so they're going to have more impact. So try to play around the artifact over the components you have. If you take like DFG, then try to make your 80 items, your 80 components into items that can support. So even if you have like bow, sword, try to get a tier so you can make a Shiv or a Shojin. Econ, again, depends when it is, but if you have like insane amount of econ, then like you want to go fast 9 because it's a strong line that's not always available to you. But if you only have like 10 extra gold, then you're probably just playing your fast 8 at an advantage. Now we can go over some of the strong comps in the meta, and we can talk about when to play them. I'm not going to go over all of them because, like I said, there's a lot of great resources out there. What I'm trying to do is like reinforce our learning, what we learned today, and trying to like reverse engineer the direction for these comps. The trick is just figuring out their win condition and seeing if you can achieve it in your spot. Warwick is like the best comp right now. It's a very traditional 1-cost reroll, and it's like very like almost nothing special about it, I'd say. Previously it was being able to get Vampire Scepter, but now that's gone. It's just like regular Warwick that just wants a lot of bows. Nothing special. You want a lot of bows because you want like Rage Blade and Titans, and then if you can get red buff, that's great. Jinx is also a very traditional 3-cost comp. Slight caveat because there's Sugar as a trait where you kind of want to stack it early, but not super important. What's more important is just getting like good items for her. It doesn't have to be double Rage Blade. Honestly, when I watched the Tacticians Cup 3, I saw more non-Rage Blade Jinxes top 4 than actual Rage Blade Jinxes. So as long as you have like attack speed items like Runons, QSS, you should be fine. Well, Runon's not really considered an attack speed item, but as long as you give her some attack speed, she should be doing fine. Now, this is one I really want to talk about. Arcana Varus is like one of the most overplayed comps on level 8 when it should not be. This is a pseudo level 9 comp, and you'll see that the stats on level 8 are like disastrous. For the most part, yeah, most level 8 boards are going to be really bad. So like the way the website works is that when you die, it will take a picture of your board and show the stats for it. So if you didn't make it to level 9 and it's only collecting information for boards that died on level 8, it's going to have really bad stats. You can see that when you even look at the best comps in the game, right? The best fast 8 board is arguably Rise or Callista. You look at level 8, stats are terrible, right? If you look at the non-fairy version, right? These are all fairy. Even with fairy, it's like a 6th place average. You look at Rise, 5.0, almost 6.0. So even for those, it's going to be terrible. But the Varus one is especially bad because that even at level 8, it has one of the worst stats, right? Like the best version of it with the Arcana +1 is averaging a 6. That's just horrendous. So when does this comp do well? When should you be playing towards it? When you actually go level 9. Notice the difference? Being able to go level 9 is the most important thing, where you can actually get the like Xerath 2, get 4 Arcana in, and find like a dual carry. I think that last example of Arcana Varus, that sort of comp, the archetype of comp where it's a fast 8 comp, but it really benefits off going, being able to go level 9. It's something that trips up a lot of people every set because there's always a comp like that, and most people, especially people who are more new to the game, expect it like all the fast 8 comps to play pretty much the same. To me, that was the number one outlier, but if you have any other comps that you feel like you don't really know direction for exactly, then feel free to reach out. The best way to do that is just Discord. There's a channel for all your TFT questions, not just me, but there's a lot of challenger players in there who are more than happy to help, not just for questions like this, but any other TFT related question. It's like the off season, so it's gonna be a bit slow, but I'm always gonna be there. There's also free coaching once a week in that server if I try to make it, but I've been busy recently, so holiday season and all that. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.